Hi, it's Nancy welcoming you to Garden Scroll. We're going to take a little look and see what did the rain do. Look at this purple coming out on this. I told you it would go back to purple. And look at this. I'm getting a new little leaf on my Plumeria. And this one's showing its purple too. These little ones don't look so good. Oh no, that heat's coming out on them and shriveling them up. They need some water. Let's take a look in my seed box where I planted my zinnias. Look, there's some little ones coming up here too. Not nearly as many as I planted, but some more may follow suit, and if not, I will try to plant a few more in here too. This little sweet potato vine is looking pretty this morning, and this is one from the window that I kept through the winter, so it's looking good. I didn't know if it was going to make it there for a while, but it's gathered up its strength and it's going strong now. Well, my newly planted little Petunia is looking pretty pathetic. But look at the one beside it. Isn't that pretty? Usually when I get a new chrysanthemum, I put part of it in the ground because I know that they don't always come back in pots, but I thought these pots were big enough, and I've had them to come back so many times that I just assumed they would, and they did not, partly because my pots tipped over and didn't get rain in the winter time, didn't get any moisture. But I will miss having that pretty yellow mum, and it was such a pretty color of yellow, or shade of yellow. And I think that was the one that I also had in this little pot, which they're gone, and I will want something in them. I hate to see just an empty pot. I'd rather just take the pot out than just leave it sitting there empty. But I'll figure out something, and if I don't find well, I really would like to have that same beautiful yellow, but I don't know if I'll find it. And if not, I will just take some from my existing chrysanthemums. There's plenty to go around to put in other places, and that's maybe what I end up doing. Look at this little Nephophia. It really grew right on up there. You can see the one there in front of it's not nearly as big. It is leaning some, but even if it weren't leaning, it would not be nearly as tall as this one. And the daisies are opening up even more. This little strawberry fields is starting to put on its little round bloom. After rain is a wonderful time to visit your gardens, because there will always be something. Either it's filled out more from the nutrients it gets, or something new is blooming, or something has put on some great new growth. It's just a wonderful time to check out the garden. And here is our rain gauge. When I last showed it to you, it was just over 1.5 inches, and now it's just right under the 2-inch mark. So we had some good rain, and our garden is thankful. The gardener, I can hardly tell you how thankful I am. Every single time it rains, I'm always ready for not having to water and just to enjoy the garden. My husband said we had almost 2 inches and a June bug. So I got that June bug out of there and put it back up, and it's ready to be rained in again, and we're supposed to have some more. Hopefully we have chances this coming week for, I think, Wednesday and Thursday, and of course I'm hoping we get that. I forgot to tell you that I also planted some Monarda or bee balm, or transplanted it from this area here, which is getting out too close to my path, and for some reason it died out back here, which is probably a mole or a gopher, probably a mole. So, but I've got it back there, and it looks like it did take well with the rain, with it having rained right when I put it in and right afterwards, so it's looking good. I fixed these little pots up, these right here, in the heat and the wind yesterday. I'm glad they're done, but it was hard work. And these little ones, I just put a little sprig in here, so hopefully they'll go. That purslane moss and rose moss usually does well, even just if you put a little piece in there just to get it started, and it'll build its root, most usually even in this kind of weather. However, as I'm looking at these, where I put the little red impatiens, and they are not looking good. I would be surprised if they even make it. I did put a little sprig of sedum in this little pot. I also put some sedum in this little pot. This is the thundercloud sedum, which is a miniature sedum similar to the autumn joy sedum, only it has little white flowers, and it just doesn't get very big. And it usually does really well in the pots. As a matter of fact, it came back in this pot. It overwintered and came back, so that's always great. And the sedum just kind of gets bigger and multiplies, and it needs to be divided anyway, so if they don't come back, you've got a go-to plant to fill up an empty pot. And it won't be long till we won't be able to go to nurseries and get plants, because they'll be closing down. Spring is coming to an end, and summer is on its way. Even as I've shown you, some of the summer flowers are already blooming. Like these daylilies. And I don't know what makes one plant work and another plant not work, because this is a periwinkle and it's probably not going to make it. But the one right behind it there is looking healthy and nice. And a little periwinkle died out in this pot, and I replaced it with this beautiful little calabrachoa. And truthfully, I don't know how long it will last, but I'm going to see how long I can keep it there. And if it doesn't make it, I'll probably put a zinnia seed or something there that hopefully will make it. I also got all my little starts that I got from the nurseries planted yesterday. I think it's probably every gardener's wish that they could just sit back and watch it grow more beautiful, more lush, more full of bloom. But of course that doesn't happen. If you want to keep them alive at all, you've got to be out here in this heat, watering every day, and you've got to keep an eye out for insects, which I did get that sprayed for Friday, and today is Sunday, so I got that done Friday evening. So many of my little window starts did not make it, so it's so encouraging when you find one or two that did. I also did take some of this little sedum out and I'm trying to get it started in this little pot here. This one again was one that died out, whereas the one right there beside it did not die out. It looks great, and part of that is because I had plastic bags on them, and this one was able to hold it down better and still let air and moisture get in there. But this one, I think the bag just blew off too much. It was still hanging on, but not enough to protect it, and so this one just all died. So I'm hoping that this will go ahead and put little roots down and work for me, which normally it will, but it's also depending on the weather and the moisture we get. And I put a little one of my garden art pieces in this. This is not something new. I've had it for quite some time, but it just wasn't in this pot, and I liked this pot even without something, but I definitely do like it better with that little angel in there. Somehow I just feel they give it a little more character. I also put sedum in this, and this is that little sedum. I need to learn the name of it, but it turns a beautiful orange in the fall. Also notice when I was watering that I do have some little seeds coming up here, and I planted a little package that I've got that I made up from last year's flowers, and I marked it Profusion and Zahara zinnias. So some of these will be the smaller zinnias that just have a profusion of bloom, and the other will be the Zahara, which has a big bloom the size of a regular zinnia on a shorter little stalk or little foliage. I also did go ahead and take the time to fill out this little pot. Practically everything in it had died, not all, but just almost all. So I put little starts in it, and hopefully they'll take off and go too. It's just pretty miserably hot, and spring is not quite over yet. So it's going to be another hard one, most likely. I'm praying for some little rains in between when it gets cooler and gives us a reprieve from the heat. That's the only way I think we make it through it. I still haven't filled all my pots up, but I've got the biggest portion of them. There's a few more that I want to so my battery went away, but I was saying there's still some pots that I don't have anything in, and I will try to fill those up. And if I can't find the plants at this time of year, I'll probably just go ahead and put little seeds in those to have something in them so they won't be empty. And oftentimes the seed put on just beautiful flowers before the end of the season. Look at this little Redhead Coleus, all scorched, laid out, but look at the one in the center. You can tell that it's picking up. I'll probably have to throw away some of this, but some of it will do great. If it keeps on going the way it is, I'll have to keep it watered and cared for, but I think it will do good. I love to have Coleuses that I can just fill up a hole where something else died, and they root pretty easily. Of course, in the summer's heat they won't, but I'm hoping to get some, like I said, some rainy, cooler days where we can get some of that done. If they just get their root going, they have a great chance of just becoming beautiful. And my little shade cactus, it fell over and dumped out in one of our high winds, so I am going to have to really rework this. I'm going to have to get those old yellow petals off of there. I'm going to need to tie it up onto a stake where those little stems are just going every which way. They don't know which way to go. So, but I'm hoping I can get this looking beautiful again. It's a very cherished plant. I learned that it's even rare, but I didn't know that, and I still loved it just because when I got it, it was probably 2 inches high and just one little stem, but now it's got several, and it was looking good till it dumped itself out in the wind. It's just about to get too dark to get any pictures, but I wanted to take a quick inventory, and I did fill these up with seed, and I just sprinkled some cactus soil over them because it's a lighter soil, and I think they will come up easier through that. And also note to myself, I need to get some more of that because I used it all. But I want to take inventory of the little pots I still need, because soon the nurseries will be closed down, and I'll need to either put seed or plants in this. I'm going to look around and see if this is one pot I do want some more in. I love this little hosta, but it's really not doing that well here. I will see, though. I'm not going to take it out, but I want to put some little flowers there in front of it, or seed. Seed would do fine in this pot, actually. I put sedum in this little pot right here, and I went ahead and put some zinnia seeds in this little pot. I don't know if they will do well here. Usually sedum does the best here because it doesn't need so much water, and as you can tell, it didn't make it through the winter. There's just little scraps of it there, but I need to do something with this pot. But first I'll wait and see if those little seeds will come up. This little pot of sedum came back wonderfully. I put a little bit of seed in the back part of this plot so it wouldn't be empty on one side and full on the other all summer long. And I put some seed right here. They're just the zinnia seeds, that mix that I told you I had made of both Profusion and Sahara zinnies. They're both a short zinni, which do well in pots or in the ground, but I use them a lot in my pots. And I want to fill this little pot up. I'm not sure what I want to do with it. If I can find a pot that'll fit there, I may want to change the pot out so it won't be down so low that it's going to get covered up anyway by these tall Laura phlox. And I decided to put seeds here in this little pot in front of my Picasa cannas. And in this little pot, I think I even put a few in this little pot. That usually it just holds rose moss, but I did go ahead and try some there. And in both of these pots right here, went ahead and put some zinnia seeds in. We'll see if they will come up and do well. I also put them in this little pot here and in this little pot right here that's totally empty right now, but except for seed, and they could come up and be beautiful. We'll see how that will go. Here's a whole little grouping of pots that I did nothing with this time, so I do want to see if I can use those, and if not, then I need to move them away from this area and not have it looking so junky all summer long and into fall. These little pots need to be totally redone. This one, you can see it's sagging in the front. My little stand is broken right there, and I'll need to just go ahead and take her out of this one. I might can put her in there, no, so to say, without that even there, but I think that would be too hard to get out, so I'll probably just see if I can do something with that later and change that whole little stand out, put a different one there, and fill her up with some pretty flowers. And I'm not sure which ones to use, simply because this gets a little shade, but it probably gets more sun. And then these little pots, everything that I had in them did not come back. So I'm thinking purslane moss in these this year. I like the idea of putting a succulent or a sedum in these and just letting them come back every year, but most of the time they don't come back anyway. So I think some little rose moss or purslane moss would probably be a good fit for these. And right across here, I want to see if I can do something with this little pot. It held together except for this one side, and I don't know if I can fix that with some foam filler or not, but I'm going to try. And then this little pot, I haven't done anything with it either. And I ran out of my cactus soil to put on top, so I didn't even put seeds in it. But I will probably put seed. If I don't find some plants on sale when I go around to see what's left and that they're selling out of at the nurseries, I may find something for it. And then this little pot with my parsley that came back. It actually came back, and it has some little bits of lilies in there too. But here in front I did go ahead and plant some zinnias. I'm quite sure that all this stuff that's coming up here is purslane weed, not purslane moss. It would be great if it was purslane moss and it would be there and ready to go, but I don't think I even had purslane moss there. So this is most likely, all of this is most likely a purslane weed, even coming up here with these little widow's tears plants. So I will probably get those all out of there, put a little bit of new fresh dirt or potting soil in there, and see what I can find for these plants. This one here actually is a bog garden, and I did have and do still have a few of the water plants that take bog gardens. Like this one probably is a Japanese iris, or it may be a Siberian iris, but I would like to fill that out with those at some point, probably not this season. So I may just plant something in this pot too, if I can find something that will work in a wetter ground, because I do have plastic in there that with holes in it so that it does drain, but not well, so that it can stand damp plants that take a damp soil, because there are some beautiful ones and I want some of those. This little pot is totally empty, nothing in it, but looks like there might be one little volunteer sprig of rose moss. I'll probably leave that in there. I like rose moss. Here's my little bush that I bought recently. It's not doing much, but isn't it gorgeous anyway? And so this time when my little angel fell off, she broke her wing. Her wing is off of there, and I'll try to get that put back together at some point too. Love this pretty color of a yarrow, and I may see, I can tell that it's getting too much water right here. Like I was telling you, some of my hoses are geysers and some are not doing anything, and I'm still working on trying to find a time when I can get that straightened out enough to be able to handle the watering this summer. But I would like to go ahead and move some of this at least to a different spot where I'll have more than just one little place with it. And all of my vines that I have, this is of course the sweet pea, and they all need to be gathered up and have a vine trellis wrapped around them to hold them up out of the pathway and from just falling down and trailing on the ground and getting their root in the ground and just becoming a nuisance and invasive plant. I like it if it stays in place. I love it. All of my vines, I had some mandevilla and I had several different passion vines, and they did not make it. I have one that's still got some green that's not in this pot, but I did put some little zinnia seed in this pot, and I also put some in this pot. Have not yet put anything in this pot, so this is one of those things I was looking out for to see what I need to get some plant or seed to put in. This little pot is always old purslane moss, and some of it came up volunteer. I was thinking about getting some more, and I may still, but what I ended up doing was to go ahead and put some of the the zinnia seeds in this pot, which would be pretty if they will work there. And this little pot is still totally bare. I'll need to plant some seed in it. This is another one that's bare of seed or plant. And there's one under this little girl that if I could get something that would grow there. It gets a little shade, but I think it probably gets more sun. So I think I may just put some zinnia seeds in that too. And I put a few in this little pot. You can tell that zinnia is my go-to for seed. They just work wonderfully in our hot Oklahoma elements. But I did put some in this little swan too and hope they will grow there. These actually have some volunteer cosmos and one little marigold that are coming up in them, but I did put some more of this seed, the zinnia seed, in with these. I haven't put anything in this pot yet. I think I want Chinese dunce cap in that one. We'll see if I get that done. And I'll probably have to put something else in this one. It's already doing terrible. It's not doing well at all. These are pretty, but you can see the ones in the back are dying. And I don't know if any of them will live or not. I saw a little snail in there, and of course I killed it, but probably where there's one, there's more. And I did put a few little zinnia seeds in this pot too. I think these green ones will grow up pretty big and maybe even wide, but I think it'll probably still need a little something in it. Before it's all over, this whole section of this 3-tier pot may have to be redone. I've never had my calabachoa to live all season, though I know some people have, and I'm definitely trying, but we'll see how that goes too. These little pots are actually what spurred me on to go ahead and do that, because it finally got a little bit cooler once it got late. And I decided, well, now is probably as good a time as any to do that. So I did go ahead, but once I got started, I put them in several pots. There's still several more I would like to put them in. This one, I don't think I put any in it, and it needs some. This one needs a few around this one side. I would do well to put some in these pots, because my little impatiens that I put in there are not looking healthy, as well of course as these are not. And then I didn't put anything in this little pot, and I do want to get some zinnias or something. I'm thinking zinnias in this. This one still has nothing in it but that one little plant. I'm so surprised that it came back, even though it is a perennial. I thought it might not in this little pot, but it did, and right now it's looking good. And I did put some in these 2 pots. I really want a vine on these, both of these, but even if I do get a vine on it, the bottoms are always prettier if they have some low-growing plants instead of just a bare stem. And then, of course, I also did go over here to this little pot and put some seed in it. And I think this little vine that's coming up here is a black-eyed Susan vine. So my planting is not done yet, but it is getting there. It won't be too much longer till I get things kind of squared away, I hope. Please be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel.